Welcome to Griffonomics. Imagine for a second that you are looking at a $3.3 billion company.
Right. A massive valuation.
Yeah, exactly. And they are attempting to build the single largest artificial intelligence infrastructure campus on the entire planet.
Oh, wow.
We are talking about 7,500 acres of raw land, just absolute mountains of heavy power equipment, and, a vision to reshape the global tech economy.
It's hugely ambitious.
It is.
Mhm.
But here is the catch. They have absolutely zero operational revenue.
None at all.
None. And to make matters worse, their boardroom is currently locked in a scorched earth proxy war that basically belongs in a corporate thriller.
It really does. I mean, the situation unfolding here is genuinely unprecedented.
Right.
You have an enterprise that has successfully acquired all the physical, tangible pieces required to build the future of AI, yet they are actively tearing themselves apart from the inside out, just as the starting gun fires.
Exactly. Why should you care about this? Because what we are looking at today is an absolute masterclass in how massive, world-changing infrastructure projects can be completely derailed.
Yeah. And not by engineering failures either.
Right. Not by broken supply chains, but by human ego, hidden institutional incentives, and corporate governance traps.
The human element is always the wildest variable.
Always.
Hmm.
So today, our mission for this deep dive is to sort through a massive stack of source material. We have financial filings, analyst downgrades, corporate press releases, and some really intense legal maneuvers surrounding Fermi Inc.
It's a lot to get through.
It is. We're going to decode their urgent Fermi 2.0 transition, look at the staggering physical scale of their Project Matador build-out in Texas, and untangle this proxy war that is threatening to bring the entire operation crashing down.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Before we can even begin to understand the warfare happening in the boardroom, we really need to understand the physical reality of what they are actually fighting over. Right, because the physical scale is really the only way to contextualize the financial risk.
Exactly.
We are talking about Project Matador, which is located in Amarillo, Texas, and the footprint alone is over 7,500 acres.
Which is just massive.
It's huge.
Yeah.
To put that into perspective for you, they are prepping over 15 million square feet of data center space.
Wow.
But, space is only half the equation. Artificial intelligence training clusters run incredibly hot.
Right, they need cooling.
Yeah, exactly. A traditional cloud computing rack might draw, say, 10 kilowatts of power. An AI server rack can draw over 100 kilowatts.
That's a 10x jump.
Easily. So to cool those immense server farms, Fermi has actually tapped into the second largest aquifer in the United States. They secured rights to 11 million gallons of water per day.
Wait, 11 million gallons a day?
Every single day.
Just for evaporative cooling. I mean, that alone is difficult to visualize. But those AI data centers don't just need water, they need a ton of power.
Oh, absolutely.
And the numbers I saw in the filings for their power generation permits are just staggering.
Well, the power ambition is really what put Fermi on the map in the first place. They hold permits for 11 gigawatts of natural gas power generation.
11 gigawatts.
Yeah. For context, 11 gigawatts is roughly enough to power all of New York City.
That is insane.
And 6 gigawatts are already secured, and another 5 gigawatts are currently filed with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality.
Right, at the TCEQ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're not stopping at natural gas. They actually filed the first nuclear combined operating license in 15 years.
And had it formally accepted by regulators, right?
Yes, formally accepted.
Yeah.
They are mapping out a 4.4 gigawatt Westinghouse nuclear vision for the site to run alongside the gas.
Okay, but securing regulatory permits on paper is one thing. Actually getting the physical turbines to generate that power is the real bottleneck in the industry right now. I mean, you can't just order a gas turbine on Amazon Prime.
No, you definitely cannot.
Yeah.
The supply chain is, without a doubt, the single biggest hurdle for the entire AI industry right now.
Right.
Currently, the industry standard lead time for heavy power equipment is around 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. If a company orders a heavy-duty turbine today, they might not see it delivered until the next decade.
Wow.
Recognizing this, Fermi enacted this fascinating strategy that we can basically call buy the supply chain. They aggressively hoarded heavy power equipment before even breaking ground on the data centers.
So they just bought everything they could find.
Pretty much. We are talking about massive Siemens SGT-800 and F-class turbines.
For anyone wondering what an F-class turbine is, picture a commercial airliner jet engine, only massively scaled up, heavily reinforced, and bolted directly to a concrete slab to spin a generator.
That's a great way to describe it.
They are astronomical pieces of hardware.
They really are. And they also secured GETM 2500 units. But Fermi didn't just place future orders, they took physical ownership of these assets.
Wait, like they actually have them sitting somewhere?
Yes, some of these colossal machines are currently sitting idle in ports in Houston, already cleared by customs.
Unbelievable.
Others are being held in storage at ports in the North Sea. By buying this equipment years early, Fermi attempted to build this massive hardware moat.
Right, to lock out the competition.
Exactly. The strategy was to completely bypass those crippling 7-year industry delays, so that when a tech giant needed power immediately, Fermi was the only player holding the actual hardware.
Makes total sense.
Furthermore, their setup is entirely behind the meter, meaning they are generating power directly for the data centers on-site, completely bypassing the congested national power grid.
So they are essentially buying up all the world's concrete and steel before they even have a blueprint or a tenant for the building?
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing.
They're hoarding the raw materials of power. But, I mean, looking at their bank account, that strategy has to be incredibly expensive.
Oh, it's astronomical.
If they have zero operational revenue today, how are they paying for this? That hardware hoard must be funded by massive punishing debt.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the sheer cost of that hardware moat is exactly what brings us to the financial tightrope Fermi is walking.
Right.
This pre-revenue infrastructure giant is burning cash at a truly alarming rate. When we deconstruct their first quarter 2026 financials, Fermi reported a net loss of $189 million.
$189 million in one quarter.
In a single 3-month period. And during that same quarter, they deployed $441 million in capital expenditures.
Burning through hundreds of millions in a single quarter is a red alert for any investor.
Oh, absolutely.
But I was digging into the forensic breakdown of that $189 million net loss, and a huge chunk of it isn't actually cash leaving their bank account today, is it?
No, and that distinction between cash burn and accounting losses is vital here. About 70% of that net loss, roughly $132 million, is non-cash stock-based compensation.
Okay, so paper money.
Right. Now, given the boardroom drama we will get into later, it's very easy for an observer to assume this was some sudden shady cash payout to the board.
Yeah, that's what I assumed at first glance.
But a forensic analysis of the filings shows this expense actually stems from a broad employee equity program. Startups and newly public companies are often cash poor, so they pay their top engineers and executives in stock options.
Right, to conserve actual cash.
Exactly. That $132 million is the ongoing accounting amortization of past equity grants. It is just the paper reality of being a newly public company.
Got it.
Furthermore, another $25 million of that loss was a one-time penalty for retiring an older Macquarie loan.
Okay, that makes sense. The stock comp is a paper loss, not a bank withdrawal. But that $441 million in capital expenditures is absolutely real cash going out the door to pay for those Siemens turbines sitting down in Houston.
Yes, that is very real cash.
And to cover that, they have taken on a staggering $865 million in non-recourse debt from institutions like MUFG and Beal Bank.
And the terms of that debt reflect the immense risk those lenders are taking. For example, a $165 million slice of that facility with Beal Bank carries a punishing 12.00% annual interest rate.
Ouch. 12% interest on a massive corporate loan is bleeding them dry.
It is.
But you also found something much more dangerous buried in their financing agreements.
I did.
They have an undrawn $156.25 million unsecured note with Yorkville. Wall Street usually refers to those specific instruments as death spiral convertibles.
They do, and for good reason.
Wait, if it's convertible debt and the stock is dropping, doesn't that mean if they actually draw that cash, they have to issue new shares to pay it off?
Exactly.
Which dilutes the stock pool, crashes the share price, and then forces them to issue even more shares the next month just to hit the same dollar amount.
The mechanics you just described are exactly why it is called a death spiral.
Wow.
Because Fermi lacks cash flow. The terms allow, or really force them to pay back the Yorkville note by issuing new common stock at a floating market discount.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It creates a self-fulfilling cycle of massive, relentless stock dilution. Every payment drives the stock down, requiring more shares for the next payment. They have $243 million in cash on hand right now, but they have completely halted vertical construction on the buildings just to preserve that runway and avoid tapping the Yorkville note.
So what does this all mean? We have a company sitting on a mountain of high-interest debt, holding off on construction, terrified of triggering a toxic convertible note and burning millions a quarter. How do they actually survive this?
Survival? completely depends on one single binary event,
Which is?
securing a multi-billion-dollar 15 to 20-year lease with an investment-grade hyperscaler. We are talking about a Meta, an Amazon, or a Google.
Right, a massive anchor tenant.
Yes. If Fermi signs a tenant, everything changes.
Right.
They can use that guaranteed future revenue contract to unlock traditional low-interest project financing.
Oh, so they basically use the lease as collateral.
Exactly. That allows them to pay off the toxic Beal Bank debt, completely ignore the Yorkville note, and finish construction. But to get a hyperscaler to sign a multi-decade contract, you have to prove you are a stable, reliable partner.
Right.
And right now, Fermi is the definition of unstable.
Which is the perfect pivot to the boardroom, because the desperate existential need for that hyperscaler tenant is the exact catalyst for the absolute meltdown we're seeing in their leadership.
It really is.
On April 17th, 2026, the board abruptly fired the co-founder and CEO, Toby Neugebauer. And, corporate press releases are usually highly sanitized.
Usually, yeah.
But this one didn't mince words at all. They explicitly stated he was terminated for serious misconduct and for cause.
It was a violent corporate fracture.
Yeah.
Just completely abrupt.
Yeah.
Following the termination, the board initiated what they dubbed the Fermi 2.0 strategic pivot. They removed the traditional CEO role entirely for the time being and installed an office of the CEO to serve as an interim operational leadership team.
An office of the CEO.
Right. This office is run by two co-presidents, Jacobo Ortiz Blaines and Anna Bofa, operating under a newly appointed chairman of the board, Marius Haas.
Naturally, when a founder is fired for cause and the CFO resigns shortly after, the market immediately panics.
Oh, of course.
The rumor mill was suggesting a complete leadership exodus, just assuming the entire company was hollowing out.
The filings, however, present a different reality.
Really?
Yeah. While the C-suite is undoubtedly in turmoil, the core operational leaders actually remained intact.
The people on the ground.
Exactly. The people actually running the physical infrastructure. The engineers managing the power grid connections, running the complex environmental permitting processes with the state of Texas, and overseeing that massive turbine supply chain, they did not leave.
Oh, that's interesting.
The physical execution team is still actively working.
So the boots on the ground are still moving dirt, and this new interim office of the CEO came out swinging to regain control of the narrative, right?
They had to.
They explicitly asked investors to measure them on a strict 90-day execution plan. They laid out 5 key deliverables, but the absolute most critical mandate was securing a secured and binding tenant agreement alongside hiring a permanent CEO.
They basically placed themselves on a very public shot clock. 90 days to institutionalize the company and sign a hyperscaler.
But, put yourself in the shoes of a trillion-dollar tech company for a moment.
Okay.
If you were mapping out your artificial intelligence infrastructure for the next 2 decades, your entire corporate roadmap depends on this facility being built on time.
Right.
Are you really going to sign a 20-year lease with a company that just fired its founder for misconduct, is currently being run by a temporary committee, and hasn't even chosen a permanent CEO yet?
It's a huge ask.
The counterparty risk is astronomical.
Well, the broader market shares your exact logic.
Yeah.
Shortly after the executive shakeup, UBS validated that concern by downgrading Fermi to neutral with a $6 price target.
A downgrade makes sense.
Yeah. In their downgrade note, UBS explicitly warned that the leadership turmoil clouds the timeline. Firing a founder effectively hits the reset button on all tenant engagement.
It has to.
Boardroom instability completely undermines the counterparty confidence required to get a massive hyperscaler lease across the finish line.
And that instability is about to escalate from a boardroom disagreement into open warfare. Because the founder, Toby Neugebauer, did not just pack up his desk and walk away.
Not at all.
Neugebauer and his affiliates still control roughly 40% of Fermi's outstanding stock. He leveraged that massive voting bloc to call a special meeting of shareholders for May 29th.
Right.
His stated goal is to completely replace the current board with a brand new slate of 5 directors, scrap the 90-day plan, and force a quick sale of the company to the highest bidder to, quote, maximize shareholder value.
The board immediately recognized the existential threat and went into a defensive crouch. On May 14th, just hours after losing a legal bid in court to block Neugebauer's special meeting, the board deployed a classic corporate poison pill.
Oh, wow.
They unilaterally amended the corporate bylaws to protect their positions.
Wait, they amended the bylaws to require a 70% supermajority vote to change the board's size or structure.
Yes,
And
exactly.
the math behind this governance trap is absolutely brutal.
The math is the entire battleground here.
Yeah.
Let's break it down. Neugebauer holds 40% of the stock. To reach that new 70% threshold, he needs an additional 30% of the total outstanding shares.
Right.
But because he already owns 40, there's only 60% left in the hands of unaffiliated independent shareholders.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah. To get his necessary 30%, he mathematically has to convince roughly half of every single independent retail and institutional shareholder to actively vote with him.
That is wild. It's like trying to get 70% of a massive football stadium to agree on what kind of pizza to order when 40% of the fans are actively boycotting the concession stand.
That is a very accurate way to put it.
Getting half of all independent shareholders to agree on anything in a proxy vote is a daunting, almost impossible structural barrier.
It really is.
Now, it is important to look at both sides of this conflict impartially. The board claims they enacted the 70% wall as their absolute fiduciary duty.
Right, that's their public stance.
They argue that a single disgruntled founder holding 40% possesses an outsized level of influence. They maintain that the supermajority protects the minority retail investors from being railroaded into a fire sale before the company's true value is realized.
Conversely, Neugebauer claims this is an illegal entrenchment tactic.
Of course he does.
His argument is that the board is using artificial defensive mechanics to protect their own jobs. He believes they are deliberately depriving shareholders of a highly lucrative sale or merger right in the middle of a massive global boom in AI infrastructure demand.
Here's where it gets really interesting because, in corporate warfare, the press releases are just theater.
Oh, 100%.
You have to follow the money. If we want to understand the real motivation behind that 70% wall, we have to look at the hidden institutional incentives buried deep in the amended annual report known as the 10-KA. For anyone not spending their weekends reading SEC filings, the A stands for amended. It is essentially the corporate equivalent of an amended tax return, where a company has to go back, fix its homework, and disclose the things they might have glossed over the first time.
And this raises an important question. What happens to the board and the executives financially if Neugebauer actually wins the proxy vote?
I'm guessing it's not good for them.
Well, a forensic analysis of that 10-KA reveals very specific change in control triggers. A change in control is legally defined as an event where the incumbent directors cease to constitute a majority of the board.
Which is the exact stated purpose of Neugebauer's May 29th meeting.
Exactly. If Neugebauer successfully replaces the board, he legally triggers that clause. And triggering that clause acts as a financial earthquake.
How so?
It unlocks massive executive severance packages for the remaining C-suite team. Even more critically, it protects massive unvested equity awards for the non-employee directors. We were talking about $2 million IPO restricted stock unit awards for the directors.
$2 million.
Yes. By enacting the 70% wall and blocking Neugebauer, the board is certainly defending their strategic vision for the company, but they are simultaneously protecting millions of dollars of their own personal compensation from being disrupted.
The conflict of interest there is just staggering. But the board members aren't the only ones with mixed motives in this proxy war. We really need to talk about the Caddis paradox.
Yes, Caddis Capital.
Caddis Capital is a major institutional shareholder holding a 9.3% stake in Fermi. Right in the middle of this chaos, Caddis publicly released a statement strongly supporting the current board.
It did.
They aggressively opposed Neugebauer's push for a quick sale and praised the board's long-term strategy.
And on the surface, an endorsement from a major institutional investor looks like a massive vote of confidence for the Fermi 2.0 transition.
Right, looks great for the board.
But when you dig into the structural mechanics of their relationship, a glaring paradox emerges. Caddis Capital holds a highly valuable contractual designation right.
Yeah, designation right.
Yeah. This right allows them to handpick and place a director directly onto Fermi's board. They utilize this right to seat former U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry.
Oh, wow. And having a former Secretary of Energy on your board is an unbelievable lobbying asset for a company that relies heavily on securing environmental permits and navigating state energy commissions.
Precisely why it's so valuable. If Neugebauer takes over and cleans house, Caddis loses that structural influence.
Ah.
By publicly supporting the board and endorsing the 70% bylaw, Caddis is effectively protecting their own designated governance power within the company.
But the real revelation came when market forensics uncovered the trading activity of Caddis's managing partner, Griffin Perry.
That was the smoking gun.
Shortly before Caddis released their public statement, urging all the other shareholders to stay the course and back the board's long-term strategy, Griffin Perry quietly liquidated 11 million shares of his own Fermi stock,
Yep.
walking away with $56 million.
The disconnect between public endorsement and private action is severe there.
And say the least.
You have an institutional manager publicly endorsing the long-term execution risk of a 90-day tenant search and a years-long turbine deployment, while privately liquidating a massive portion of his position to lock in immediate personal gains.
It's like loudly cheering on the ship's captain for his brilliant navigation, urging all the passengers to stay calm and trust the process, while you are secretly lowering yourself into a private lifeboat with all your luggage.
That is a perfect summary.
It completely shatters the illusion of their unwavering support for the current board.
It perfectly highlights the complex web of aligned incentives dictating this entire conflict. The board protects Caddis's designated seat, Caddis protects the board's voting structure, and the manager secures his liquidity event.
Right.
All the while, the broader base of independent retail shareholders is locked behind a 70% voting wall, just watching the cash burn.
So what does this all mean for the listener? We have a massive 7,500-acre stockpile of hardware. We have punishing 12% debt and toxic convertibles. We have an interim leadership team desperate to sign a hyperscaler tenant to stay afloat, and a boardroom locked in a defensive siege against its own founder. Where does this end?
Everything converges on the May 29th special meeting. It is a terminal binary event for the stock.
Okay.
If Neugebauer manages to break the 70% wall in court, if a judge rules the bylaw amendment was illegal entrenchment, the board likely falls, and the company is almost certainly carved up and sold to a larger infrastructure player.
If he loses.
If the bylaw stands, Neugebauer is neutralized. In that scenario, Fermi transitions into a highly speculative, slow-burn utility story. They will be trapped in a desperate race against the clock to sign a hyperscaler tenant before their high-interest debt catches up to them and triggers that death spiral dilution.
It completely reframes how you look at investing in these massive, rapid growth infrastructure projects. We spend so much time analyzing the technology, the cooling metrics, the supply chain lead times, and the gigawatts of power.
Right, the hardware.
But the greatest risk to this $3.3 billion company was never the delivery of those Siemens turbines. It was the hidden governance structures. It was the quiet alignment of institutional incentives, severance triggers, and the sheer destructive force of a boardroom proxy war.
As the global economy races to build the infrastructure required for the artificial intelligence revolution, pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into data centers and power grids, it leaves you with a very provocative thought to consider.
What's that?
How many other critical, multi-billion-dollar projects are quietly being held hostage by outdated corporate bylaws and hidden compensation triggers that the public never even sees?
Risk defined, portfolio protected.